Hi, I'm Eric, and I'm glad you're here because I want to teach you some secret knowledge that I've learned. And I want to teach it in an efficient way, so I'm going to cram a lot of technical stuff into this short video. But first, I'm going to tell a story, a fictional story. Once upon a time, there were people in a cave. These people had been in the cave their whole lives. They were raised in the cave and had never left the cave. They didn't even know there was an outside to the cave. They're fine. They're just living out their lives in this cave. But then one day someone shows up and says, "What the heck, guys? Why are you in this cave? Don't you want to go outside?" You can imagine that the people had a negative reaction to this. They lashed out, desperately trying to protect their established worldview. This is Plato's allegory of the cave. It is an ancient story used to teach a variety of lessons, and one of them is that you are the person in the cave, because there is knowledge out there which would shatter your worldview if you learned it. And your worldview shattering is a part of learning about reality outside your cave. No one wants to go through that, but it's the price one must pay to go up the ladder of knowledge. Now that story time is over, we're going to be discussing ontology. What is ontology? Ontology is rung 1 on the ladder of knowledge, as far as I'm concerned, because everything you've ever learned is most likely based on some kind of ontological assumption. And if that assumption is wrong, then everything you've ever learned is wrong. So you might have to start back at rung 1. What is ontology? Ontology is when you take something in reality and you look at it and ask yourself, what is this made out of? The beginning part of the process of answering that question is going to be a scientific process, and the answer is probably going to be something along the lines of, it is made out of particles named molecules or atoms. And then you keep asking the question, what are these atoms made out of? As you can see, the question evolves very quickly into other, more philosophical questions such as, what is the relationship between the physical category and the non-physical category? Or, why is there a physical category and a non-physical category? Before you get overwhelmed with all this philosophical mumbo-jumbo, I'm going to make it really simple for you. Have you ever heard anyone say, there's more than one way to look at the world? Well, they were right. There are 4. By simply learning what these 4 perspectives are, you will have an excellent framework or foundation for learning the details within any subject. The first perspective I'm going to tell you about is known as dualism. Dual meaning 2 categories. 2 separate categories such as physical and non-physical. From the dualist perspective, everything is made either of physical stuff or non-physical stuff. One doesn't necessarily involve the other. They're independent. So how would a dualist understand or interpret atoms? Maybe the dualist would say that there are physical atoms and there are also non-physical atoms, and that they can do their own thing. The next perspective is called monism. The monist perspective is that 2 categories have a relationship in such a way that they are the same thing, similarly to how 2 sides of a coin are parts of one whole coin. So how would a monist understand or interpret atoms? Maybe the monist would say that there are physical characteristics and there are non-physical characteristics, and that an atom has both, and potentially the same thing. The next perspective is called physicalism, or sometimes materialism or atomism. The physicalist perspective is that there is only one category, the physical category, and that another possible category, such as the non-physical, is just a subcategory of the physical category. So how would a physicalist understand or interpret atoms? Maybe the physicalist would say that all atoms are physical particles, and any seemingly non-physical characteristics emerge as a result of complicated interactions between the physical particles. The final perspective is called idealism. The idealist perspective is like physicalism, but reversed. This time, it is the physical category which is merely a subcategory of the true category, the non-physical. So, how would an idealist understand or interpret atoms? Maybe the idealist would say that all atoms are non-physical particles, and that physicality in general is a result of non-physical particles. Plato's allegory of the cave is partly an exploration of human psychology and partly an exploration into metaphysics. Likewise, ontology is just as much an exploration into metaphysics as it is an exploration of the different ways that people understand or can understand. While listening to the cave story, it is easy to view yourself as the enlightened character arriving to present new ideas to others and getting a negative response. And sometimes, in some ways, I think we all play that part. But most of the time, I think, we are all potentially the cave dwellers, trying to help each other understand the outside world in our own ways or in ways others can understand, such as using analogies or allegories. And every rung up the ladder of knowledge has for us some kind of analogy or allegory to help us along. See you in the next one.